Alright, we're continuing on with function arithmetic, but now we're going to be evaluating from tables and graphs. In this first example it says, use the tables for f of x and g of x to evaluate the expressions below. Write your answer as an integer or a reduced fraction. So this table represents function f, and this table represents function g. Part A asks us to find f of 3 plus g of 32. Remember that the 3 is the input. It represents what we're inputting for x. So in this case, x is 3. We want to know what f of 3 equals. So we want to know the y. So when x equals 3, we go up to our table, x equals 3. We're here. And f of 3 equals negative 18. So this would be negative 18 plus, same thing with g, we go over to the g table. We're inputting 32 for x. So we're over here. And when we put in 32 for x, we get out 12 for g of 32. So g of 32 equals 12. And then we do the operation, negative 18 plus that 12. Overall, we end up at negative 6. Same thing for part B. Now we're looking at g of 24 divided by f of 3. So we go over to the g table first. We find the input of x equals 24. So we're over here. We input 24, we get out 9. So g of 24 equals 9. Going over to the f table, we're inputting 3 for x, so we already have that here. We know that when we put in 3 for x, we get out negative 18 for f of 3. Lastly, we need to simplify this. So this has a common factor of 9. If I divide out a 9 from the numerator and denominator, I end up with 1/2, and overall it's negative because there was one negative. Why don't you try the next two examples? Alright, part C, we have g of negative 7. So going over to function g, finding that negative 7 on the table. When we input negative 7 for x, we get out negative 16 for y, or in this case g of negative 7. We will be subtracting f of 2. Over on our f table, we find when we input 2, we get out negative 2. Again, don't lose those signs. We were already subtracting. We got out a negative value. So when we subtract a negative, that changes to plus 2. Negative 16 plus 2 ends at negative 14. And lastly, D here, we're looking at f of negative 5. So on my table, I find f of negative 5 for f, and I get out positive 3. I will be multiplying by g of 32. We already found 32 on our table. We know that it comes out as 12. 3 times 12 ends at 36 overall. Alright, looking at these tables, it's going to be the same idea. We're just going to use the table to find our values. So to start, I'm looking here, part A. I want to find g of 5. Remember that 5 is our x. So on the x-axis, I go over to 5, and I find out what the y value is that goes with it. So I end up here at this point. and that is the point 5, 3. So when we put in 5 for x, we got out 3 for y. Minus, I need to go over here to the f function, and I want f of 0. So I'm plugging in 0 for x. So I'm not moving up, or sorry, I'm not moving left or right, but then I find the y value that goes with it. It's up here at 0, 5. So when I plug in 0 for x, I got out 5. I need to do that arithmetic here of subtraction. 3 minus 5 ends at -2. Part B, I'm looking at f of 4 times g of 3. So I start on my f graph, make sure I'm on the right place. I'm going to be putting in x is 4. I need to find the y that goes with it. So I end up here on the graph. X was 4, y is also 4. So f of 4 equaled 4. Times, going over to my g function, plugging in 3 for x. So on the x-axis, I move over to 3, and there's my point on the graph. So I moved 3 in the x. I'm not going up any, so I'm at 0 for y. So 3 times 0 is going to give me 0 overall. Why don't you try the next two? Part C. I want f of 1 plus g of 2. Starting on my f graph, I'm letting x equal 1. I need to find the y that goes with it. So I end up here at the point 1, 2. I plugged in 1 for x. I got out 2 for y. Plus, moving over to my g, I'm letting x equal 2. I need to find the y that goes with it. So I'm here at the point 2, 4. So when x was 2, y was 4. 2 plus 4 ends at 6. And lastly here, I have g of 1 divided by f of 3. I need to start with my g. The order matters. So g came first. It has to be in the numerator. So g of 1, I move up to find my y. So that's the point 1, 5. So when I plugged in 1, I got out 5 for y. Moving over to my f function, I want to let x be 3. I have to find the y that goes with it. So now I am at the point 3, 3. When I plugged in 3 for x, we got out 3 for y. That can't be simplified, so that's our final answer.